You know, I really thought we were gonna have to wait a lot longer before we got a sequel to The Old Guard. Yeah, I know. I just used that same joke in my last video. But it's true! Infinite is brought to us by director Antoine Fuqua and stars Mark Wahlberg, Dylan O'Brien, and Chiwetel Ejiofor. I fuck that guy's name up every time. We follow Evan, played by Mark Wahlberg, a 30-something-year-old guy who's having a real hard time of it. He's having a real hard time getting a job. He's got a mental illness and he can't get the medication for it. The guy just can't get a leg up in the world. You see, Evan was diagnosed as a schizophrenic years ago, but he keeps it in check with medication. But without money or insurance, he can't get his medication. So when he gets arrested one day for trying to procure some of this medication, he finds himself in an interrogation room with an odd interrogator. Next thing you know, his world is flipped upside down and it seems like everybody's trying to kill him. Cars are flying into buildings and picking him up and taking him on wild rides. And he's told by those people that pick him up, you're not schizophrenic. Those voices you've been hearing all these years, those aren't voices in your head, they're your memories. Not really your memories so much as the memories from past lives. Yes, Evan is reincarnated, and it appears that he and a certain group of people in the world are reincarnated every time they die and end up being able to access their memories from lives past, as well as the experiences and the talents that go along with them. And of course, there is a good guy side and a bad guy side, and Evan is part of the good guy side. And apparently in his last life, he hid something that the bad guys want that could destroy the world. And also, of course, he can't remember all that shit, so we spend a good portion of the movie trying to figure out where he hid this thing. And from here, we go on lots of adventures as the clock ticks down as they try and access Evan's memory so they can save the world. When I heard about Infinite, the thing that really drew me to it was its director, Antoine Fuqua. The guy's got quite the record. I mean, he did Training Day, which was really good, and the Equalizer series, which part 1 was just awesome, and part 2 was really good as well. So I was pretty excited for this movie. I thought, yeah, this will be pretty good. It's got Mark Wahlberg, and with the right people and right director, he usually does a really good job. Antoine Fuqua, he's come across as being really damn reliable as well. Dylan O'Brien, Chiwetel Ejiofor, I mean, these are some really great names. This movie should have been a knockout, but it's just not. I was really disappointed in this movie as a whole. And not just from like a story perspective. No, this movie trips up on pretty much every single level. The performances are fine, I guess. They're what you expect from this kind of movie. I didn't really have any problems there, but everything else, there seems to be some issues. And unfortunately, one of the biggest issues with this movie is one of the things that drew me to it the most, and that is Fuqua's direction. I don't know what the fuck happened here, but this is absolutely his worst movie to date. The narrative is just a mess, and about 3/4 of the way in, you notice that it's just a carbon copy of the story structure of the first Matrix movie. Really, watch it, and then watch The Matrix. The story beats in it are exactly the same. But hey, The Matrix is a great movie, so if you're gonna copy something from another movie, make it a great movie you're copying from. I don't have a problem with that. But the narrative as a whole, while it does have an interesting premise, is just kind of squandered and really fucking messy. Characters do things and you don't really know why they do them. It doesn't really make any sense within the world that they created. That's one of the really bad things this movie does, is it sets up rules within its world and it breaks them all over the place. And if it doesn't break them, it just doesn't follow the rules that it sets up. It sets things up and then it just goes in a totally different direction. Also, these characters are human. They're not superhuman. Now, they do have the benefit of having all the skills that they've learned over all these lifetimes. They do get to like kind of move all that over to a new game plus every time they die. So there's that, and I get that they would be very talented at what they do, but some of the shit they do in this movie is like superhero territory, which they're not. They're not supposed to be that. They are mortal as you and I. They're just like really skilled mortal. And I'm okay with over-the-top ridiculousness. I mean, I like the later Fast and the Furious movies, but it really all depends on the world you've created. And the world they've created here is not a world that inhabits over-the-top ridiculousness. It is a world that is more or less grounded in reality, and we are told that these characters are just that. They are mortal, just with lots of experience, but they continuously do things that mortals can't do. On top of that, this has to be one of the most anticlimactic endings to an action movie I've seen in a really long time. They could have at least gone out on an entertaining bang, but no, they couldn't even get that right. There's this thing that they're trying to get the whole movie, and of course at one point in time the bad guys get it, and then the good guys have to go to the bad guy, and they do battle, and they're back and forthing with it the whole time. And then when they finally get this thing, I mean, come on, really guys, I'm not giving anything away here, but when they finally get this thing and stop it from doing the thing it's going to do, the movie's just over. It's just done. And I was just like, I mean, that's it? Really? You're ending it like that? All right, whatever. I just wasn't very satisfied with it, and it didn't even really seem like they were setting up a sequel. I mean, obviously, given the title of the film and knowing what it's about, they could do a sequel, I guess, but it didn't even seem like they were trying to do that. It seemed like they were trying to give a definitive ending to this story. They just kind of failed there. I mean, yeah, we get an ending, but it's just really limp noodle. So how about the action? Fuqua has shown that he is able to direct some badass action in the past, and he does that here some of the time. I mean, there's a car chase closer to the beginning of the film, and then a little bit closer to like the second third of the film that is pretty cool, but every time he's directing this action in this movie, it ends up like going on too long and going into this really weird, messy territory. Not even ridiculousness. I don't mind that. It's that these chases and action scenes start here, and they're pretty neat, very competent, and moving along, but by the time they get to the end of the scene, they end up just being very messy. There's a car chase that takes place around the middle of the movie where Mark Wahlberg's character gets rescued, and it's like kind of over the top, but like in a cool way. I was digging it. I was down with it. Tons of destruction, and they're just going all over the place, and some pretty cool stuff going on. But then at the end of it, the way the scene ended, it was just like Michael Bay came on scene and blew everything the fuck up. I don't even know why. I mean, I know why one explosion happened, but all of a sudden it's like fucking scorched earth. Everything started to fucking explode, and there's no real reason why. It just did. And that's how they ended it. I was just like, what just happened? Why did all this shit just start to randomly explode all over the place? It's just really messy. And that goes for pretty much all the action scenes in this movie. Most of them will start interesting and fun, but they de-evolve as the scene goes on into just a muddled mess. And that's this movie overall, in my opinion, just kind of a muddled mess. I mean, it looks okay for the most part. It's got some pretty decent effects. The performances are, like I said, what you expect from this kind of movie, and overall, just the movie, the quality of it, what's on screen, looks fine. I mean, there was money in this movie, you can tell that. But I don't care how pretty it is, it's still just a fucking mess. That kind of sucks because the idea behind this story could have been interesting. But there are so many plot holes and inconsistencies here that it just sucks it dry of any type of fun that was there initially. Guys, at the end of the day, Infinite just really disappointed me. While it did have a neat premise and the performances were okay, I guess, that's about all it had going for it. The narrative, the action, and just the movie as a whole was a mess. And a lot of that can be attributed to the direction, which really blows me away because Antoine Fuqua usually does a fantastic job. But here, he didn't. What he did do, though, is make a movie that's only really worth checking out on USA Up All Night.
It's not worth it!
Hi, I'm Gilbert Gottfried.
Hi, it's Lunch on USA.
It's so big. It's just not worth it!
I'm actually really blown away by how bad this movie was with all the good stuff it had going for it. It's kind of shocking at the amount of talent that was involved with this movie and how bad it ended up being. So if you do decide to check this one out one night, just keep those expectations low and remember, I told you so. So there it is, guys, my review of Infinite. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you liked what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, stay sexy, Bangladesh.
The legend never die, you get re-
So I sat down to watch this movie with my wife, and usually she's not like totally against action movies, but they're not her first choice. I mean, she enjoys them and all, but typically if there's another option, she's gonna go with that. I honestly did not expect her to really watch this movie all the way to the end. I figured we'd get about a quarter to halfway through and she'd be like, oh, I'm gonna go upstairs or go do this or that. That's just how these things work out sometimes. So color me surprised when this movie ends and she actually did stay there all the way through, probably to watch Mark Wahlberg, who walks around with his shirt off a lot of the time. fine. It is what it is, whatever, I accept it. Anyway though, I look over at her and I had just been kind of internally laughing at a lot of the just ridiculous shit that had been going on in this movie while we were watching it. And I look over at her as the credits roll and I had this face going on and she looks at me and says, "What, did you not like it?" And I was like, "No, not really. I mean, did you?" She was like, "Yeah, I really liked it." I mean, what the fuck? Really? Some of the other movies I watched that are actually quality action films you don't really like, but this? You watch this and say, "Oh yeah, I really liked it." So I guess for what it's worth, I didn't like it, but she did, so there is an audience out there for this movie. Who knew? I mean, honestly though, she didn't like Sin City or Terminator 2, so really her opinion doesn't matter anyway. Oh hey honey.